Hello and welcome to this episode of I Don't Know Jack About Parenting, where today I'm going to be talking about the art of teaching your kids how to listen. So the big question is this: how are parents like us, who don't have a manual, who are doing the best we can, who feel as though we aren't enough, how are we going to raise healthy, happy children who we are proud of and still keep our sanity in that process? That's the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Ryan Roy, and welcome to I Don't Know Jack About Parenting, a podcast for parents who are being real with themselves. Hello and welcome back to this episode of I Don't Know Jack About Parenting, where today I'm going to be talking about the art of teaching your kids how to listen. Many years ago, when I first started getting into my coaching business, one of my clients was doing podcasts, and he was in a podcast group, and I shared with him my strategy for teaching my kids how to listen, or what I think my strategy is on how to listen. And I share this. He's like, dude, you should be doing parenting podcasts. So many years later, here we are. I'm doing parenting podcasts. I don't know jack about parenting. I really fully believe that a lot of this is stuff I've read. A lot of it is my own life experience. A lot of this is stuff that my mom did with me, and it just made a lot of sense to me. So many moons ago, I did my first podcast interview on a parenting podcast called The Parenting Pub. It's not around right now. I kind of looked for it, but the interview was one of my first interviews, so it went way better than I thought it was gonna go. I was kind of nervous. And I remember getting on there and they were asking me questions about, they said, the whole reason we want to interview you is because somebody shared with us that you have a great tactic on how to get kids to listen. And my whole thing is learning is fun. And the other part of it is a lot of parents bring a negative connotation to the word listen to me. Listen to me! And I think at a very young age, if we make the word listen a fun thing, we have a greater ability that when we need our children to listen and they hear the word listen, what you hear, they'll pay more attention because they know it's about to be a fun experience. So back then, and even now, because I have a 20-month-old, wow, he's about to be 21 months. When we walk out of the house and we're headed to school, we're getting into the car, or when we're leaving the car, or we're just outside, I'll often say to my son, and when it was Christian, when it was the first one, I'll say, Christian, listen, Christian, listen. And he would stop. Imagine that, a kid stopping when you say listen. And I say, what do you hear? And he'll listen, and he would say things like squirrels. I said, what else do you hear? And he'll say, the wind in the trees. What else do you hear? And he would look up and he'd look for that airplane that you could hear way off in a distance. He'd say, plane. What else do you hear? And occasionally you'd get a chipmunk or a squirrel that was rustling up a tree or through the leaves. And he'd say, squirrel. Awesome. So I'm at that point with the little one now. And his words, as I've mentioned, are becoming more and more, right? The words that he's using, he's able to not just point to something in a picture book or say, what's the truck, or where's the bird, or what's the ball. He's actually paying attention and telling us. So the other day, I was like, let's take the opportunity to see if he can answer me. And I said, Jayden, listen. And he stopped and he got really attentive. I said, what do you hear? And I didn't know if he was going to have words. And there were 4 or 5 different birds chirping in the background. And he goes, birds. And I said, yeah, Daddy hears birds too. What else do you hear? And I heard an airplane, but he looked up. He didn't say plane, but I said, do you hear an airplane? And he smiled. What else do you hear? And it was a little bit windy that day. We heard the wind blowing through the trees. And obviously I feed him some of these answers, but the idea is that we're going to stop and we're going to make an exercise that is fun, inquisitive. Everything that is new to a child is super exciting. So we need to show enthusiasm for the simple things in life so that the kids want to pay attention. But here's the thing about the word listen, because parents will say, my kid just doesn't listen to me. Well, you haven't trained your child to listen for the little things in life. You haven't trained your child to pay attention. You haven't slowed down the process and say, hey, you want to stop and listen to something and make it fun. The only time, and you're going to go through your Rolodex in your head right now of all the times you've asked your child to listen to you, and I guarantee you very few, if any, are times where you made it an exercise where it's fun. It's been, you're not listening to me. And they start having a negative connotation that they're getting yelled at. They start having a negative connotation about the word listening. And when we have a negative connotation to things like that, we tend to shut ourselves off. And we don't want to listen because whatever we're about to hear is going to be painful. So when the word listen has a negative connotation, our children don't want to. But if we start off early and often, listen to me, early and often, making it a fun experience. Let's listen to farm animals. What sounds do they make? This is a cow. Let's listen for the sound that it makes. Moo. See, then listening becomes fun. And then when you really need them to listen to me, Jayden. I need you to do XYZ, whatever that may be. But they heard the word listen, and listen's always been fun. They'll listen and they'll do, but you've trained them to listen. It just doesn't come naturally. See, I don't know jack about parenting. But I know that I respond to things when they're fun. I learn better when things are fun. So I'm trying to implement, and it takes a lot of conscious effort to implement strategies that are fun so that my children can learn. And I hope this one helps you in the area of listening. Because one of the best compliments I've gotten throughout my parenting journey is that my kids at this point are very attentive and that they listen really well. I don't know if it's solely because of this exercise or a lot of other things I talk about in this podcast. I think it's a lot of these things combined personally, but that is definitely one of the key components of having a great listener. We'll see you in the next episode. Do you want to be the dad you wish you had? If so, go get my free book, Be the Dad You Wish You Had, at BeTheDadYouWishYouHad.com. Inside, you'll find my most effective 40 tips to quickly and easily transform yourself into the ideal dad. Go to BeTheDadYouWishYouHad.com now and get it while it's free.